What I'd like to do is walk through some different as-built files that we have done and kind of let you know how the process works once the field generates the information and gives it back to us. This job here is a kind of a progress aerial topo. This is final for as-builts, but contractor had been flying this on a regular basis and we were providing information. But this is a surface that we generated from a drone flight, and just want to kind of show you how things get added. The first thing you see here, we had some grade breaks in just because we had to sharpen up some of those lines, which is typical with the drone topo. And we came in and added some contours, and then also with this, a lot of times what you can do is pull out the existing surface tin from the topo to kind of make things easier. But this ended up making a pretty nice presentation that they could give to the client and owner and make sure that they met the specs. This is drainage in a mining area. Let's take a look now at a road job as built. These are shots taken on a much longer stretch of road, and you can see that they were pretty well P-coded, and a lot of times we'll get these where, like all of us, we'll kind of forget to change the name of something, and you'll have a bunch of points that are not correct. So we'll oftentimes go in and change these descriptions to make them match exactly what was happening. Now, this was a unique job because the most important thing was trying to make sure that the slopes outside of the grading area were correct for a cable barrier installation. And how that ended up was looking like this. Here to Bluebeam and show you that we had to calc the slopes on each one of these incoming and outgoing cross sections so they could confirm that they met certain parameters. Fortunately, Carlson on Simple 3D is capable of doing this for cross sections, so this wasn't done manually. This was actually generated during the cross sections. Now, let's finally here take a look at a good, honest, as-built job for a project that we did. And you'll see that this overlays the plans in pretty much every detail. But if there had been a deviation, a lot of times we will, at the request of owners, either show where the utilities went and show what the plan was and have to chart a change and let them know why they deviated from the plans. Or in this case, they did this according to plan, everything was fine. So what we did was we took their topo shots, turned those into line work, and then took them and laid them on top of the plans. So we now have completed as-builts that are easy to understand. Everything is color-coded, and all the contractor had to do was take these and transfer these off to the owner. I'd like to talk about utilities and utility layout, as well as looking at some better ways to leverage what you give people in the field so they can produce a better job. All right, let's get into it here. This is a project. You can see it's an apartment sort of looking thing. I have a lot of information going on, not only with grading, so we've produced a surface. So you can see a surface here. Let me shut off all the plans. You can see a surface, and we built the grading surface, but now we've given additional information for the field to use. Now this gets a little bit busy from a CAD aspect, but remember, you're going to turn layers on and off, and I've got a lot of layers on that normally I wouldn't if I was doing a specific task, but I want to show you what can be provided and what you can do with it. Let's zoom in here to some storm information, and just for the heck of it, let's turn back on the PDF so you can kind of see what's happening here with the layout of the storm line. So if we come in and look at these storm layout points, this client requested just storm flow line points at specified distance, and you'll see it comes into a curve here, and there's several storm points that coordinate together, so when you're running a line, you can just go to the next point and it'll pick up that next number and take you to the next point in that line. If it's the end and there's 3 points that come together, not a problem, you're just following to the next point. Let's talk about some curb points here. You'll see there's a top back of curb call out point here. That's going to be a 3D point, and you'll see that there's a PC, a PT, and a mid-ord point that kind of allows you to set this curb. And then this radii point for all these, the curb radii are going to give you a way to follow that information to take you and line you out for face of curb, and then there's another top back of curb point. So what you're going to do is use these for layout and also to verify grading information. A lot of comprehensive information that's going to be used at certain points, and you'll see it's kind of all here together, so it's a little bit overwhelming, but again, when taken to use when necessary, this information becomes absolutely invaluable. Now, let's look at another one here where a client actually just wants graphics. So their field people are so used to using graphics to find things that they don't necessarily need points, except at least on this job we had points at critical junctures, structures, and inlet points for all these really large drainage structures. This is a really dense site, and you can see there's just a lot going on here. Let me just shut off this storm here to make it a little bit easier to kind of chase around and see. Now this is another case where in the article I talked about doing different things. You'll see that we've actually laid out these light pole bases, and we not only give the location of these, but we also give a mounting height so they can verify that they're putting the right poles in the right places. Just one of those things that helps the field to understand exactly what's going on, and they can visualize. Here's another real decent idea with just a simple storm layout. So a lot of times what happens is they may start the grading and not be sure about the utilities, they're still getting worked out, or the job is just so detailed that we'll provide a 2D file for layout. This one happens to be for water layout, so you can see that we've given them information, we've given them a lot of text, which back in the old days with smaller computers and processors on field computers were a problem, but now it's not so much of an issue. This is going to allow the field to lay out water, see other utilities, so if there's crossing information, they know what they're doing, and this kind of isolates their portion of work. So the superintendent doesn't need to turn on and off layers or tell them how to do something. They can just go out and produce this in the field and not have to have a problem with it. This last one I want to show you is really a neat one. This is a project that that we worked on. This is an existing park that they're going to do some additional work to. And what happens is there's just a whole bunch of information, not only with existing, but what they're going to do to this park. And they really did a lot of different stuff. So what we ended up doing, this is actually a plot from the information that we laid out. And there are all sorts of structures. There's a zip line. There's a lot of benches around trees. There's slides. There's different play areas. And what you'll see here to kind of parse this information for you, this number inside the circle is the height above ground, and this basic layout here. This is 30T, so this is basically kind of a location of the grid. So the alphabet runs north to south and numbers run east to west. So you can kind of do a gut check when you're out there in the field, kind of seeing that, okay, this is in the right spot, I've got what I need. But we provided points for all these different items. In addition to points, what we did was we took the points and grouped them, and I'll probably do a video in the future about grouping points and how to lay those out. What happens is if you are tasked with drilling all the 8-inch holes on the job, then we're going to give you a points file with just the 8-inch holes, so when you've got that auger set up in your equipment, you can get those all done and then move to the 10-inch and 12 and so on. And that gives you everything. If you want to turn all the points on to kind of get an overall view, you can keep the grid active, you can do what you want, but then you can take a step back and verify what you're doing, that you've got all these holes, and you can kind of as-built them as you go along. So you're going to shoot a point where you drilled, and that way you're going to make sure you didn't miss anything. If you've ever got questions about any of this, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm always more than happy to help. Thanks. Have a great day.